Kyle Bell, you did an amazing job if food on my psyche was what your goal was. Hi everyone, my name is Oralia. I just am pretty much a PhD student who needs a creative outlet, and I just want to talk about whatever I like and think about on the internet. Don't think I've really talked about films in like content ever, whether it's stream or video, but I have a lot of thoughts on what I'm going to talk about today. Editing me here, I realized I got really carried away with shooting this video that I actually completely forgot to say the title of what I'm talking about. So what we're talking about is the movie called SKINAMARINK by director Kyle Edward Bell. And I do talk about it as though it hasn't been out yet. That was because it didn't when I shot the video, but it is out, and I'll talk later in the video about putting stuff in the description to support the film. I found it almost necessary for me to talk about because this movie really shook me. I don't think I've been so shaken up by a film since I saw Child's Play when I was 5. It's been going viral on TikTok. People have been saying that it's the movie that's the scariest movie ever. And I feel like we get that every 5 years. I think 2012 or 2013, we got The Conjuring, Annabelle, Paranormal Activity back in 2009. So I think this is always a craze. I don't know if this is the scariest movie that I've ever seen, but it definitely is up there, and it definitely took me back to a place I never thought a film could take me, which is crazy to me. This is so embarrassing. Okay, I'm going to admit this now, and if you want to laugh at me, please just laugh at me. I'm gonna try not to care. It's kind of the reason why the title of the video is what it is. I haven't slept with the lights off for over a month since I've seen this film in November. And I know that the movie isn't real. You know what I mean? I know this is set by a director. I literally followed the director on Twitter as a hopes to fourth wall break. And remember, this is a creation of Kyle Bell. This is a creation of Kyle Bell. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. I don't even know what to say. That's an embarrassing admission, but if it is the truth, sticks and stones may break my bones. Woo. YouTube comments will hurt me. I think there's a specific point in the film that spooked me, and it just kind of stuck itself to my psyche, unfortunately. I have thoughts and theories on this film, and I need to share them. I'm not really a film reviewer, but I am a big fan of horror films, like I said. So if you came here prepared to get stuckmanized and all that, I'm sorry, this is not what's going to be. I'm putting this together. This is my creative outlet. I need to let out these thoughts and do something productive with how much real estate this movie has had in my mind in the last month and a half. And I have full right to do that because, First Amendment right, freedom of speech.
I'm an American.
I'm gonna do a non-spoilery review or just talk about the film first, and then we're gonna go into spoiler territory. That's please. That is for people who have seen the film. Okay, we're gonna talk about analysis and my theories about the film's plot or the world building that was going on during the film. Kyle Bell, you did an amazing job if food on my psyche was what your goal was. The movie has not had a worldwide release yet, but I learned while researching for this video that there was actually a theatrical release announced for this movie, and it's actually coming up very soon, if not the week that this video is posted. This is the first feature film by director Kyle Edward Bell, and I think it's an amazing film. I think it's really well done for what it worked with and what it did, and it's definitely deserving of legitimate views, that is for sure, and he deserves to get the fruits of his labor. Okay, I sound like Karl Marx, but it's true. Basically, watch the film. Not only because it's great, but we gotta support creatives like this, smaller directors, especially someone who put so much thought into a film like Kyle Edward Bell with what he did in this movie. He was resourceful. I think I saw an article that said that a car costed more than the production of this film. Now, I don't know if the argument's if the car was a Maserati or something, but I can for sure say that this guy was resourceful because with so little, this guy did so much. If you want to see some of his work, that's not the whole film. He does have a channel, a YouTube channel. It's called Bite Size Nightmares. I'm going to put a link in the description to it. I believe from what I've gathered and understood, people submit like their dreams, like their nightmares, and then he makes videos out of them. I think that was ample material for this guy to work with to make the nightmare of a film that he made. How? I need to stop hitting this microphone. So let me start off with the IMDb plot summary for the film. I think that's like not spoiling it in any way. So it's one sentence, okay? It says, 2 children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father missing, and all the window and doors in their house have vanished. That's literally it. But even just that sentence kind of triggers a lot of the film's appeal and horror that it revolves around. So just like the bio, the movie is pretty simplistic, and it's especially going to seem very simple to someone who is like more used to bombastic horror movies, like more high production jump scares, like the 2010s trend. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like studio movies are different from that of an indie film. So if you're used to like stuff like Smile and Insidious, this is going to be very different. And I think you should prepare yourself. I think if you prepare yourself, you will enjoy the film. I feel like a lot of the critiques that I've heard against the film, or not against it, but just not favoring the film, it's like, oh, it's slow, or why is it like this? Why are the shots like this? It's different. But if you're a fan of analog horror like YouTube ARGs, alternate reality games like the Mandela Catalog or Gemini Home Entertainment, then I think this is going to be a film that you'll really, really like. And I feel like a lot of younger kids like analog horror, and I think they're more into proximity of the fear and the memories that this movie might bring up for you. So that's kind of crazy. I can't wait for that. But for those who aren't familiar with analog horror, it's a subgenre of horror that's like found footage horror. But this became a trend stemming from like early 2010s internet videos. So we'll have low fidelity graphics, cryptic messages, and try to mimic the style of early television from the 1960s to like the 1990s analog recordings. There isn't a fourth wall type break like there is in found footage where the characters know that they're being recorded because they're the ones recording. The Blair Witch Project is a good example of found footage. So there isn't that fourth wall break. And I think that that's what made the film very immersive, right? Because something about found footage, right? Especially like, oh, the Blair Witch Project. People thought that stuff was real when it came out. Like the way it was promoted, it seemed like this was a real event. And because it's found footage, right? Like this is supposed to be a camcorder somebody has. Nobody has. Well, nowadays it's a little different, but at least in the 2000s, no one had like DSLRs with them, right? To make it feel like a studio film thing, right? They didn't even have the quality of this thing that I bought at Best Buy for like $20. For me, I'm gonna speak for myself. When I see like a studio horror film, it kind of takes me out of it. So I just kind of appreciate it as it's the creation of someone's work. Because if a movie looks better than my eyesight, yeah, it's not real. You know, earlier horror movies kind of scare me more because of their use of practical effects as opposed to like CGI or just really good work. So it's kind of like the uncanny valley, but things that are like off-putting are more obvious, yet it still doesn't make them any more off-putting. If that made any sense. So in this movie, it's made up of a lot of unique angles, like with little to no movements in the actual shots. There's hardly any dialogue. Like, I seriously think if I typed out the dialogue of this film, it would be about 1.5 or a double space page. Like, literally. And that may sound like a turnoff, but it actually speaks a lot to how the movie was written. The empty room within the cinematography of the film actually leaves a lot of room for us to use our own psyches to fill the gap, like our own interpretations of what's happening. So with our interpretations comes the things we fear and the things we don't like. And in a setting that's like not the most welcoming, like it was for these kids in this movie, yeah, you're gonna fill in the gaps with some pretty scary stuff. So all of that paired with the fact that the two main characters, or I think, yeah, they're basically the two main characters, I would say, of the film are these two very small children. I think we've all been kids before, or if not currently a child. If you are currently a child, please hop off this video. You have no business with this topic, man. Since I watched this movie as an adult, It kind of I felt horrified in several different ways, I think is a better way to say it. I was experiencing the film kind of like in a double state. I don't know if that's a word, but that's like the best way I can describe what I was feeling. So on one hand, I kind of went into mom mode and I was seeing these two small children who seemed so sweet, first of all. Those actors were great. They were doing their best in this like supernatural circumstance. And I was rooting for these kids while I saw them do their best to cope with, first of all, their father being gone. I think just the father not being in this context, like enough to freak me out. Like when my mom was not home and I would wake up, I would be super scared. I had a lot of relatives growing up in the house, but it did not matter. Like if my mom was gone, I was scared. I felt that way mostly in the first half of the movie or like the first act of this. Nah, I would say actually it would be the whole first act and halfway through the second act. I would say that's how I felt. And then the third act is where the movie started actually getting into my own head. I wasn't just sympathizing for these kids. I like I said, it was in me. Like the horror of this movie was coming into me. Pause. So by the second half of the second act, the movie began to feel like what we as children imagine in our heads happening if there was actually something sinister in our house when we wake up in the middle of the night or we're home alone. Like, right, we IRL maybe got to see our parents or a caretaker come back after a couple hours. We survived our fear. But this movie is like, if something actually was at home and your parents didn't come back, this is what happens. That's pretty much all I can say, I feel like, without spoiling the movie intensely. I'm just trying to give you a vibe of the atmosphere so you kind of know what you're going into. I still, like I said, I really, 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 really urge people to watch this film. It's good. Like I've said, it's good. I liked it. As a horror movie fan, I liked it. Now, as a non-horror movie fan, I don't know how people like it, but like I said, I think you should also think of it as a puzzle. Like I told you, like there's not much dialogue, but there's this huge story like being said. So think like if you want to go at it kind of like a puzzle and kind of put the pieces together of the movie's plot, go do it like that. It's a fun movie. It makes you think, it makes you like appreciate the art or just try to understand like how this person made this movie. Like I said, there's several ways you can enjoy the film, not just like because it's a scary movie. But don't blame me if your utility bill goes up because you have your lights on more than usual or if your blood pressure goes up. That's not my fault. You have been warned.